is everyone doing? I hope you're doing great. I'm back from convention. I had such a great time. What I want to do in this short video today is kind of show you something that I learned. So during convention they set up like these demonstration stations where you could actually learn from someone from the home office and then play and try and do it. So we learned how to do the blendabilities in one of those sessions, and what I'm going to do is share with you the exact lesson that was given to me. It's a slight change on the color palette, but just about the same lesson. And then I'm going to tell you about a special class that I'll be having online for blendabilities. I totally fell in love, and yes, I am a Copic user, so I can tell you a little bit about the differences. I allow myself to use the word. They did not mention Copics during the training at all, but I will share some tips with you as I go through this. This is what we did, so we're going to do this again today so that you can have the class just like I had it. So I'm going to take a piece of Whisper white paper, and the way the blendabilities work does strongly depend on what paper selection you have. So I suggest you start with Whisper white before you start branching out to other types of paper. Whisper white will bleed through, which means that you're going to use your focal point on a card versus single layer cards when you're using Whisper white, unless you don't mind the bleed through on the back. Okay, so I want to show you something that I think is really important to understand, and this is something that I think will really help you excel in using your blendabilities. I'm going to zoom in here really close, and I'm going to take one of the markers. I'm going to talk about it more in a minute, but this is the point I want you to remember. I'm just going to put down a layer of the marker. This is Daffodil Delight. I'm actually going to go to a next place, and I'm going to run over that about 4 times. And then I'm going to go to another line and run over it about 6 times. Okay. Down here I'm going to run over it 3. So what you notice right away when you look at what I've done is you can get variation from just one marker. But what I love is how bright and vivid the colors can be. And the brightest one on this slip is the first one, which means you don't want to overwork your blendabilities. With Copic markers, you can work in area for days. With the blendabilities, I suggest you keep it down to a minimum of very light strokes, and you'll get nice, vivid color. When you overwork the colors, they'll actually get a little bit muddy. So don't overwork it. This is meant to be easy, guys. So just a few strokes with a very, very light touch. Okay, let's get started with talking a little bit about the markers. So here I have one set. Now, as you know, the markers are sold in packs of 3, and each pack has a color. So like this one right here is the Old Olive assortment, and it came out of this box. So all 3 of these are called Old Olive, so to speak, but they are different tonal variances. So this one is the dark Old Olive. Then you have the medium Old Olive. And then you have the light Old Olive. And I'm sorry if that didn't focus in, but that's what they say. So what I suggest you do when you take out your markers is choose your colors and put them in that order. So dark, medium, light, dark, medium, light. Now what you'll also notice when you look at the markers, in addition to the dark, medium, and light, is that just like our regular Stampin' Up markers, you have the thick brush stroke side and the thin brush stroke side. You see those lines kind of tell you in advance what the brush size will be, just like our standard markers. So the thick one is a very wide brush, and the thin one is a kind of a pointed marker brush. Really great for thin lines. You want to make sure you keep your markers capped, okay? So if you're not using them, they should be capped because they can dry out. So keep them capped. I'm also going to give you a tip about closing them. So I'm going to open up this marker. I'm going to show you inside here that there's a little circle in there. You see that circle? You want the point of your marker to go into that circle. It just stopped raining. It was pouring down rain and it just stopped. I'm sorry, where was I? So take the cap off. If you put both the pen and the cap down on the table and you're looking at those 3 dots on each, then you push it together while it's flat and hear it snap. That is the easiest way to be sure that you're putting the cap on correctly. So now let's get started. I'm actually going to stamp this image on Whisper White, and I'm stamping the image from the Today and Everyday stamp set. The Today and Everyday stamp set is found in the catalog on page 168, and it comes in wood and clear. And I'm going to use the image that is the beautiful lanterns, but you also have a cute little motorcycle that says Today and Every Day Enjoy the Ride, and a cute little set of little dolls that say many thanks. Okay, I'm going to ink this up with Memento ink. I'm kind of zoomed in close here for you. And kind of right over towards the middle right, just to keep it simple. Alright, so I'm going to start with the yellow, the Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to start with the darkest marker. So I have them all lined up here, dark, medium, light. I'm going to start with the dark one. And I'm going to come around this side here quickly. This is a very quick process. A little bit on the bottom, kind of like a semi-C. And that's all I'm going to do with the dark. Then I'm going to take the medium one and I'm going to bring that in kind of close to the one I had before, along the top, and then on the right side. And then I'm going to take the lightest one and I'm going to finish it. And if you just do kind of like a semi little circle, you should be able to blend these without a problem. And I'm going to leave a little highlight area here. Then I'm going to take my color lifter, and this doesn't always lift color, but I'm softening my highlight with it. And that's it. I'm done with the yellow. Now because I want like I want my tops and bottoms to be colored differently, I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow and put it on the lantern right next to it, using the medium color and the light color so that even that has a little shading. Okay, now I'm going to go to my green. I'm going to take my dark green. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to take the pumpkin pie, and I'm going to take the dark one first. So this is the medium. So I'm going to take the dark one first. I don't know what that was. Somebody out there. And I'm going to put that down. Again, looking at that semi-C and not putting a lot of ink down. You're not trying to work this. Then I'm going to take my medium, and yes, you saw that my medium can, if you have your, sometimes they can collect a little bit of ink inside if you store them upright, which I did. And when you open them, they can spurt ink. So just kind of store your pens flat and you won't have that issue. And then I'm going to take the light one and kind of blend and finish that, leaving a little highlight that I'm going to finish with my color lifter. And that kind of softens that highlight up. Then finally I'm going to go to the green. So I'm going to take my darkest old olive and I'm going to put that right up on that edge and underneath, because this is that darkest piece right there. And that old olive is actually quite dark. Don't let it scare you. And then I'm going to bring in that next color. And I'm going to bring it over to the right side as well. And then I'm going to take my lightest green and bring that in. Again, leaving a little area of highlight that I'm going to use my color lifter to soften. Basically, that's it. This is how easy this is. I'm going to take the darkest pumpkin and just do the two edges of that green one, and then the lightest pumpkin to do the opposite side. Then the color that's missing basically on this one is the green, so I'm going to take the old olive medium, put that on the dark side, and then the old olive lightest one, and finish off the top of that. So what you end up with is like the tops or the other colors, not the color of the current lantern. Okay, and then to get that top done, I'm just going to take my darkest pumpkin pie and just color all of those handles. And then it would be fun to use even a glitter pen on this to give that a little sparkle. But I'm just going to take my light old olive, come in here like this. Since I said I was going to do exactly what they taught me, I won't do any glitter. And basically that's it. That's how easy that is. And you get quite an interesting look, variation. Remember, you can always go back in and say, hey, I'd like a little bit more. Bring a little bit more shadowing into the bottom. If you want, just, you know, sticking with the colors that you have. Bring a little bit more green in, perhaps. Be careful with the old olive. It is very dark. And then let's just add a little bit just for fun. We'll add a little bit more darkness on this yellow one. So you can come back in and bring in more shading if you want. I just suggest that you stay light when you're first learning, and you'll find that this will be really easy to do. I was going to mount this on some orange cardstock, and then using one of my old ivory pre-cut cards, just mount that whole thing on there. I'm going to back this up. You can see that I've mounted my focal piece on a little piece of the pumpkin pie, and then I've taken that whole thing and mounted it on one of our ivory pre-cut and folded card bases, and basically I'm done. So try using them. They're a lot of fun to do. You can get quite a bit of variation. Over here, what you see over here is that I just kind of sprinted one of them. One of them is really inky. So you might want to try just keeping your markers stored flat and holding them away from your project when you're getting used to them. Please take my class though. I'm going to get into quite a bit of detail into blendabilities in my class online. I'm going to teach you how to use them on different mediums, not just on paper. And we're going to learn how to blend in a radial fashion like we did today, but also linearly. We're going to talk about how to create ombre effects. So I'll put a link to where you can sign up for that online webinar. And I hope you enjoyed this and that you try out the blendabilities. They're a lot of fun. If you're used to Copic markers, the only thing I will say to you is forget what you know. Don't do the same thing. This is easier and it's faster, so keep your touch light and keep it quick. Thanks and happy stamping!